On today's DNVR Buffs Live, he's back. Big Screen Scotty is back in the building. We're going to talk what happened at practice yesterday. 11 Buffs make the Senior Bowl watch list. Some movement on the coaching staff, and Peggy gets an NIL deal. Here we go.
Let's go.
Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. It's DNVR Buffs Prime Time. What is up, chat? We are back, and Big Screen Scotty is back.
My boy, what's the word, man? It's good to be back. Good to be back in this seat, man. Let's talk some ball, man. Let's get it.
Let's do it, bro. I'm so stoked. We are 8 days away, I think, now.
Crazy.
Yeah, this time, so it's from tomorrow, a week from tomorrow.
Big facts.
It gets real.
It's real. It's going to get really real out here, man. I can't wait.
Well, we'll get into practice, what happened at practice yesterday, all the sound and all that. But real quick, what's your early, week out read on North Dakota State? You know, one of their best safeties probably not playing. They're dealing with a few other injuries, new coach.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Just your early 1 week out read on the game.
Yeah, a lot going on. Obviously, it looks like they won't be at full strength, at least down probably their best defensive player, Cole Wisniewski, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, a real versatile player. I actually just chatted a few days ago. I mentioned this last time I was on the show with my former college football head coach, who's now the running game coordinator, offensive line coach at North Dakota State. I got that story coming out with him either in the next couple of days, but just talking to him about that, and something he brought to me that I didn't really recognize, I guess, is this is the first time in 20 plus years that North Dakota State has had an offensive minded head coach. Each of their last three head coaches have been defensive coordinators in the past, obviously having a defensive background. But, new head coach Tim Polasek, who was the offensive coordinator at Wyoming the last couple of years, there's going to be a bit of a kind of a philosophy, change a bit, with this NDSU team. Obviously, they're going to be led offensively by their quarterback, who's a real dual threat quarterback. Something, Coach Larson talked to me about. 2 years ago, they won a FCS national semifinal game to go to the national championship, where Cam Miller completed just one pass. But he ran for 132 yards, so he's dynamic as a runner. So that's going to be something that this Buffs defense, particularly this front seven, this pass rush that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit today, it's going to be, imperative that, they bring their A game week one, which is just 8 days away.
Cannot wait, man.
Crazy.
As you mentioned, we're going to hit the defensive line pretty heavy today. We got a lot. We learned a lot from them yesterday. We were unable to make it, of course, but you were there. So we'll dig into it, everything. But what was just the general vibe talking to those guys? A lot of trench talk yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. It was dope to hear from Coach Damione Lewis for the first time. The Buffs, new defensive line coach who was, promoted from a defensive analyst not too long ago. Again, it's another guy, 23 years of NFL playing experience, coaching that Colorado defensive line between Coach Lewis and obviously Warren Sapp. So, and those young guys, Dayon Hayes, who we heard from yesterday, Samuel Okunlola, the 2 pit transfers, they're really taking in that coaching. And this, I've said it multiple times, man, this pass rush, to me, looks like a top half of the conference, at very least, pass rush, with guys who I just mentioned, Hayes, Okunlola, B.J. Green, of course, the Arizona State transfer who broke out last year, Tajay McCoy, who's really come on strong, here lately. He looked like a dog. He looked like a demon for real in the open practice last Friday that we were all at. So, that's 4, at the minimum, very legitimate, bona fide pass rushers. You could throw Arden Walker, Ray Ambuel, a couple other guys in that mix as well, who should make an impact on that front seven there. But Yeah, it was dope. Like I said, to hear from Dayon and Coach Lewis for the first time, Samuel as well. So I really like where this trench is at, particularly on the defensive side of the ball for CU.
I agree, man. I think that they're being slept on nationwide, honestly, at this point. You look at the experience they brought in, and as, again, we'll get into it all, but, Dayon was talking about they have a bunch of different styles on that defensive front as well. So,
I love that quote. He said, we got every style of rusher, man. And it's true because, you look at, Dayon and BJ, they really bring the power around that edge. And then you've got guys like Samuel and, Tajay, who I just mentioned, who really, bring that speed, kind of finesse game to their pass rush. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be very different, particularly from last year, where I think they had 27 sacks as a team, 7th in the Pac-12. Is just not going to cut it this year, but that should be much different in a positive way for the Buffs this fall.
Well, let's get into sound from yesterday. We'll start with Coach Loadholt, actually. We'll cover the offense real quick. First time we've, I think, gotten to talk to him as well since he's been hired at Colorado.
I think we got him one time, maybe.
In the spring?
In the spring.
Okay, yeah. So first time during camp now, actually.
Yeah.
We'll do the first one, Alyssa. He was asked about, Tyler Brown. He's emerging as like one of probably like the linchpin, really, of this offensive line.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have Jordan coming along, and he spoke about that. These are up on our YouTube channel if you want to go check them out. But here is Coach Loadholt answering, how valuable Tyler Brown, Rock, has been to this offensive line.
Rock's been great since I stepped in here. He's been great. He's obviously everyone knows how strong he is physically, and then just mentally, he's always there for me. You can count on him no matter what position you throw him in. Any position, he'll adapt and adjust. And he's a true leader in the room. He's a guy you don't have to worry about anything. So he's been great working with him.
So the reason why I picked that one is in the middle. He said he'll adapt and adjust. You can throw him in at any position.
Yep.
And we've talked a lot about, we've gotten questions, who's like the swing tackle for this team? And Tyler, even then, going into spring, it was like, is he going to move to center, Because you bring in Tyler Johnson, you bring in Justin Mayers. People thought those would be the two guards that we run with here. But now he's playing right tackle and really just showing off his versatility. And, of course, he's just a great guy, great teammate as well.
Absolutely, man. I think he is, arguably going to be the most pivotal figure, to use your word, linchpin of that offensive line this year because of his versatility. And I think this is a lot about him as a player, both physically and mentally, to be able to handle all those different assignments that you would have, going from a center to a guard to, obviously here recently a tackle. And I think that's why he's going to be so important because, as we know, injuries happen in football, particularly with the big guys up front. You're going to have to be able to mix and match things. And that's something that Loadholt also mentioned yesterday, and also Coach Prime mentioned last Friday at the open practice, is that he's given Loadholt kind of, these different scenarios where, you don't have, say, Jordan Seaton this practice. What are you going to do? How are you going to adapt? You don't have Justin Mayers, this practice or this practice session. What are you going to do? How are you going to adjust? Who are you going to throw in there? So Tyler Brown, his versatility to be thrown in, at guard, at right tackle, and obviously at center if they need it, I think is invaluable for a group that's, I think, still kind of, looking to find its, starting five, kind of it's that 6 to 8 rotation. Coach Loadholt said yesterday that he feels really good about, 6 to 8 guys, but it's they're still trying to work out the kinks of exactly that starting 5 of who, should really be out there, with Shedeur. And obviously, I talk about trust a lot with, quarterback and receivers, but obviously the same can be said for quarterback and, his guys up front. And obviously Tyler Brown has earned that with Shedeur over years, dating back to their time together at Jackson State. So, like I said, Tyler Brown is going to be crucial to how effective this offense as a whole is, particularly with, how well they can block up front.
And the other thing about Tyler is just a super smart guy, too. So it's no surprise to me that he's been able to pick up and just play multiple positions. He's kind of played all over the place, going back to his time at Louisiana and stuff. So he's invaluable to this offensive line. And it shows just how much of a loss he was to last year's team. Like, it was, I think, maybe a little bit sooner than where we are now in relation to the start of the season that we found out that Tyler wasn't going to be playing last year. And that was just a massive blow right before the season. Of course, no one else outside the nation, outside of Colorado, talks about it or even knows who Tyler Brown is. But that was a massive... Just the consequences from that were huge, and they played out during the season.
No doubt about it.
Next clip, you kind of mentioned it, Coach Loadholt talking about finding the right 5 up front and just his overall rotation on the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, we've been mixing and matching guys, just trying to find the right combinations. I feel really good about, the rotation that I got set right now in my mind. But we've been working on it. We're going to get there definitely before next Thursday for sure.
I feel really good about the rotation that I got set right now. That'd be Jordan Seaton, Justin Mayers, Hank Zelinskis, Kareem Harden in there at guard right now, potentially Kahlil Benson if he's able to make it back in time for next Thursday.
Right.
And then Tyler Brown. I mean, you saw on Friday the scrimmage and all that. What was your impression of that unit as they were going out to work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the defense won the day.
Oh,
Defensive
for sure.
line won the day, you know what I'm saying? And, it's going to be interesting to see, particularly how the tackle situation kind of sorts itself out. Because obviously, and I don't know if we're going to play this clip too, but, Coach Loadholt was asked specifically about Jordan Seaton. Mm-hmm. And one thing he mentioned was that he wanted to see, his toughness improve. And I guess that's something that you can somewhat expect from a freshman, a true freshman, somebody who's still very young, hasn't even played a live snap of college football yet. But, that's something that you're going to have to keep an eye on, that everybody's going to be keeping an eye on this fall as, Jordan Seaton starts to, protect Shador's blind side, because, you play young guys at different positions. Say you're a freshman DB, you might get burnt, you might get toasted and give up a touchdown, which sucks.
Right.
But it's completely different for an offensive lineman because, you have people's livelihoods in your hand, so to speak. People can get hurt, if you're not on your P's and Q's all the time. And one thing also Loadholt mentioned was that, he needs to learn that you can't be taking plays off at that position. You can't do it because bad things can happen. So, and even on the other side, obviously Kahlil Benson's dealing with some injury right now, and we'll see how healthy he is for next week and beyond. But if he's not able to go, as we talked about, that can kind of set off some reactions otherwise, where we're gonna have to be relying on a Kareem Harden perhaps at a guard, which obviously isn't ideal, because if it was, he'd be a starter. But I'm sure Loadholt probably feels comfortable with Kareem being in some type of role, or else he wouldn't have him out there. But that tackle position on both sides is going to be fascinating, because I feel really good about Hank Zelinskis at center. I think Coach Loadholt does too, from what he said yesterday. I feel really good about Justin Mayers as well. The other guys is where we're going to have to see some some improvement, and see how they've kind of developed under Coach Loadholt since he's been here in Boulder.
Yep. I love what you said about the reps too, because it's so true. Like, not saying you could take plays off at other positions, but like if you're at running back and they call a toss away from you, it's like, all right, I just got to kind of wall this guy off in a stock block here.
Precisely.
But in a left tackle, I mean, it's every single play in, play out, you are getting a full-on rep.
Yep.
So
100%.
Great point, man. We'll get to a few more here from let's do Coach Hart first, because the linebackers have been a big topic, and of course, George Hilo joining the staff.
Yep.
I'll ask you about that as well. We'll start off with this one. Coach Hart yesterday was asked about. Actually, we'll do the second one, Alyssa. So he was asked about if Levante Bentley and Trevor Woods are still his starters at linebacker as it stands right now.
Yeah. So our defense is similar to a couple of things he's done. But I think the biggest thing that Kai has brought is just that professional attitude on how to talk loud early and often, how to get those calls out and make sure, we're playing as a unit. So you don't have to just say such and such call. You can call somebody's name. And he does that, and now the other guys get that. Like, who cares if they know on the other side his name or not? You want to make sure the communication is getting over there. And now, as you see, if you've been at the practices, there's a lot more talking, there's a lot more activity, there's a lot more high five, because everybody's on the same page. And now that's rotating to those other linebackers, and they're doing the same thing. So his impact as far as showing how to be a professional has been invaluable.
So that was actually about Nakai Hill-Green.
Yep.
A guy who came in here with massive expectations when he committed the day of the spring game. People were like, well, this is probably going to be a starting linebacker.
Yeah.
We didn't really get that right away, right? It was still Levante and Trevor, and we'll play the other clip here in a second. But Nakai seems to be really becoming on recently.
Oh yeah, man. I still got high expectations for Nakai. My expectations for him haven't wavered over the last few weeks and months since he arrived in Boulder. I still honestly think he's the best true linebacker on this team, and I think we'll see evidence of that here as the season gets rolling. But yeah, man, you just heard from right there from Coach Hart, and that's something Nakai talked to me about, probably about a month or two ago when we talked, is that he's an over communicator. He's an obnoxious communicator, and particularly at that linebacker position where you got to get the guys in front of you with their hands in the dirt on the same page as well as, synced up with the guys in the secondary. That is an invaluable tool weapon that Nakai has at his disposal. And obviously he can play too. I think the biggest thing, the most important thing with him is that he can play the run as well as he can play the pass. He nearly intercepted Shedeur during last Friday's open practice, making a really good read on the ball. Nice little play action fake from Shedeur, kind of loaded up and tried to, kind of sneak a slant, right behind Nakai's ear. But Nakai was all on it, nearly picked it off, knocked down the pass. And that's just a glimpse of what he can do. He also got home on a blitz and made a couple of tackles for loss in the run game. So I really like where Nakai's at. I think him and Trevor Woods should be the two inside linebackers on most downs. Obviously, Levante Bentley will have a role. Coach Hart mentioned it there, or not there in another clip, but that Jeremiah Brown is, pushing to start. He's going to have a role as well. And I would expect Jalen Wester at some point to, get on the field and, make his presence felt as well. But like I said, I really like Nakai Hill-Green a lot. I think he's a really good player. Like I said, I still think he's the best linebacker on the team. And I think everybody will come around to that soon enough.
I love it. Let's take a quick break, though, and we'll get back into the linebackers, what Coach Hart had to say, and Coach Lewis. Shout out to our friends at UC Health, starting their new initiative with Coach Prime as the leader, the Ready, Set, Co. initiative. Coach Prime wants to help you and other Coloradans be your healthiest selves. As the Chief Motivation Officer of UC Health's Ready, Set, Co. Challenge, the goal of the challenge is to get Colorado back to its rightful place as the healthiest state in the country. The season's coming up, man. We got a week left. We've had to kind of tune up this off season, physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, you took a mental break, little vacation.
Yeah,
you got to hang out. Are you charged up for the season,
man? I'm so overly locked in, to use the words of the Westers, man. I'm overly locked in, man. I can't wait for this season to get rolling, man. Like I said, I feel refreshed. A little time away, I think does everybody good to clear the mind. But yeah, we locked in, ready to roll.
There you go. Whether it's eating better, going to the gym, getting more sleep, or just taking some personal time, there's lots of things that you can do to be your healthiest self. If you want to join UC Health's Ready, Set, Co. Challenge, you can just click the link in the description or go to www.uchealth.org/ready-set-co. And then also shout out to our friends over at Toyota. It feels like Coach Hart is looking for a rugged, tough, but reliable linebacker to throw out on the field in Colorado.
Sounds like a Toyota.
Sounds like a Toyota. It's exactly it right there. Well done, bro. But that's what Toyota is. I mean, they got tons of options for you. Whether you're adventurous, you need a truck, Tacoma or something to go out and take on the mountains out here in Colorado. Or if you want to get a hybrid, save a little bit of money on gas, a sports car, a Supra, whatever, Toyota's got you covered. You can visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of CU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR. Okay, back to the linebackers. Let's play this other clip. As you mentioned, Trevor Woods and Levante Bentley, the starters right now, it seems, for Coach Hart, but competition is coming up, and there's some other guys making some late pushes here.
Yep.
You're good. The other Coach Hart video.
Early in the season, I thought it would be, and now Nakai and Jeremiah Brown are making a really big push, and so we've been mixing these guys up. And I always talk about competition keeping them up at night, but now they're keeping me up at night because I'm trying to think who's going to be that guy for me, and they've been playing really well, and so I'm excited to see who's going to come out on top. But I feel good with any four of those guys going in.
This is exactly the goal of the offseason for, Corey, Coach Prime, and this recruiting staff.
Yep.
Was, maybe some coaches felt fine with their room, but the recruiting staff and Coach Prime wasn't satisfied. They wanted to up the talent across the board to honestly kind of put Coach Hart in these situations where he's not, 3 weeks out from the first game and just goes, all right, I know my two guys. They wanted competition in every room, and now we're seeing it play out in the linebackers room with JB and Nakai.
Absolutely, man. It's dope to see Jeremiah Brown, really come on because obviously he looked really good in the spring game.
Yes, he did.
But obviously to parlay that into, a strong fall camp to where now he's getting consideration to, start, push, Bentley and Woods to start, I think says a lot about him, his perseverance and obviously his talent as well. Trevor Woods is really interesting too. Again, I believe he should start at inside linebacker alongside Kahlil Green. But just to hear Coach Hart yesterday talk about, his development, obviously transitioning from the secondary at safety to inside linebacker, bulking up, put on the way up to 224 pounds. Now I think he was listed at 205, as of, earlier this year. So that says a lot about, what he's been able to do in the weight room. But the man can just play, man. We talked about this off the air, man.
Yep.
Trevor is still one of those guys who still slept on, overlooked for whatever reason. But, his versatility, on that side of the ball, to play the run, to make plays on the football in the pass game, not just be in the right spot or get your hand on it, but to actually intercept the ball and give it back to this offense and give them extra opportunities is something that, can't really be understated. So I like where this linebacker room is at. You add in Johnny Chaney Jr. as well, the transfer from FAMU, who, figures to, give this room some additional depth. But, I really like where, like I said, the two starters are what I expect. Levante Bentley, you throw him in there. Jeremiah Brown, you throw them in there kind of maybe in red zone situations where teams are going to be running the football. I think that's where they can find a role. But I really like the versatility of, Nakai and Trevor. And, like you mentioned it, there might not have been that depth. You might have felt good about two guys in a whole room, last year in terms of, actually playing on the ball or on the field, rather. But there's some real depth, and it's going to be needed at that linebacker spot in particular.
Well said, brother. Shout out to Unapologetically Buffs in the comments. I don't know who that is on that account, but shout out to y'all. Reef saying, I'm happy seeing all the Jackson State guys thriving. It's another great point. I mean, JB, he wasn't really a factor last year at all, but he's coming in, and Coach Hart spoke a lot about, how he's taken his game up a level, like off the field, the notes he's taking, how he's watching film. And of course, just his ability as a blitzer. He can run for days, he said as well. So
and he can hit.
He can
that
hit.
boy can
Yes,
hit.
he can.
He delivered probably the hardest hit of the entire spring game, a few months ago. So that boy can play. I'm excited to see him continue to develop.
But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think, a week from tomorrow, first play for defense, we see Kahlil Green and Trevor Woods starting at linebacker for this team.
That'd be my hope. I do think that Levante Bentley, there's a part of me that thinks he gets the nod, week one, game one, play one, et cetera, but Trevor and Nakai, I think, are the two guys who get the most run at linebacker this year.
We talked a lot about George Hilo, who's joined the staff earlier in this week or last week. I can't remember exactly. But you spoke to Nakai about George Hilo, who coached him at Michigan. What'd you learn in that conversation? Yeah,
man, he just talked about – he was so complimentary of Hilo, which, makes sense. You'd expect him to be. But, just something he mentioned in terms about how Coach Hilo explains the why behind the things that he teaches. And that's something that I've heard from – players who talk about coaches that, have really made an impact on them. And that's something that obviously Hilo has done in at least a few of his stops. He's been at Michigan, he's been at Alabama, he's been at Georgia, Florida State. Florida State when they won a national championship, about 10 years ago. So he's been around a lot of good football and a lot of good locker rooms and football programs. And that's something that Kai mentioned too. He just knows how to win, and he knows what winning looks like. You know what I'm saying? And, going back to the explaining the why thing, you see some of the videos of him already at practice from, the well-off videos and whatnot. And he's not saying, I want you to do this. He's saying, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take my glasses off, and I'm going to show you how to hit this pad, how I want you to hit this pad. And, that can go a long way for a linebacker group that, still has some room to develop and room to grow, especially for some of those younger guys. So I like the addition of Hilo. Obviously, again, he brings a ton of experience, and he's been around a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players. And, that could only bode well for that defense and that second level of the defense.
You can check that one out on the YouTube channel. Great stuff from Coach Hart, though, talking about the green dot. Trevor, he spoke about Jeremiah Brown, Nakai. Just go check it out. Let's get to Coach Lewis, though, in this defensive line, because I feel like they're being slept on nationally, and I feel like the true ceiling of Colorado's football team, yes, while it may be defined by Shedeur Sanders and this offensive line and how well that, the running game, just the offensive efficiency year over year from last year. But this defensive line is going to cause some issues for a lot of teams. And I just think that people haven't paid attention to the caliber of players, specifically guys like Sam Okunlola coming in, who's a very good, young, talented player. And then the vets in BJ and Dayon, and then you got young guys in Tajay and Arden. It's crazy. It's a loaded room, man.
It's deep, man. It's deep and talented. Obviously, a lot of people are going to talk about Shedeur Sanders and the Colorado receivers, which is, another group full of depth and talent. But I think when it's all said and done at season's end, we're going to look at this pass rush group as, the second best, position on this team behind those receivers. And obviously, your Shedeur, who kind of is, is in his own class. But just the versatility, man. Again, going back to that Dayon quote where he pretty much said unprovoked, we got every style of rusher. And again, it's just going to be such a stark contrast from what we saw defensively from CU last season, particularly, down the stretch where, you're giving up, half of the teams that they played last year scored 35 points on them.
Yep.
They allowed almost 280 passing yards a game, which was, second or third worst in the Pac-12. So a lot of that had to do with the lack of a pass rush, getting to the quarterback, affecting the quarterback, whether you sack him or not, just putting him under duress to where he has to let that ball fly a little bit quicker than he wants to, messes up the timing with him and his receivers. So I think that's something that we're going to see rear its head, man. Again, BJ Green, man, good luck blocking that man.
Yes.
Good luck blocking that man. They already pretty much couldn't do it in the Pac-12 last year. 6 sacks, 11 and a half tackles for loss, if I'm not mistaken. I think those numbers are only going to jump up here this year. Dayon Hayes as well. And, I think Dayon had 4 sacks last year, but he was so close to so many more.
Yep.
Like I'm talking about, he's getting there at the same time as somebody else, or quarterback is just able to just flick it out of bounds for an incompletion before he can come down with a sack. So another year, in a college football strength and conditioning program, working with Warren Sapp, Damian Lewis for the first time. And he seems motivated. Just hearing him talk yesterday, he seems motivated to prove that, he's bigger than Pitt, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? You spend 4 years at one place and you can maybe sometimes get put into a box.
For sure.
But I think he's out to prove that, he's a future NFL player. Obviously, Coach Prime certainly thinks so. He said that he believes both Dayon and Samuel are future pros in addition to BJ, obviously. So it's going to be on them to show this, and they're going to have plenty of opportunity to show that they belong at the next level.
Good stuff, man. Alyssa, let's do Damian Luce's answer about Dayon Hayes. Is the 34-second one.
I think it's the first one you sent me?
I think so, yes.
This week. Okay.
Yes.
I think it's the motor and the attention to detail. Dayon came here from Pitt, and obviously, him, I don't know how well that was received with him transferring, but whatever. We got him here. He's buying into what we're coaching, and that's all I know from the kid. He's coming in. He's doing exactly what we're asking him to. He's competing at a high level. He's turning and running to the ball. He's exuding some leadership in the room as well. And the same thing with Sam. Sam just works. You get him out there, he's going to work. He's your workhorse. He's going to do everything you ask him to the best of his ability. So, those guys, I have nothing but positive things for them, and I see them possibly having a chance to go play on Sunday.
Scott's getting the full DNVR experience right now with the bar just bumping its music. And
man, I was trying to talk that last segment. I heard gun in the background. I'm like, I might have to just start breaking down this song. I got that Jack Harlow playing. I don't care. I see Denver, whoever on the aux in here, going crazy. We love to see it.
We keep it lit, bro. But there you go. That's Coach Lewis on Dayon Hayes. Obviously, he's going to play a massive role this year, and he just sounds like kind of what you said. Coach Prime labeled them as NFL guys, but it seems like Dayon's really molding himself into a young pro at this point.
Absolutely, and that's something I wanted to ask, Coach Lewis about yesterday, which I did, and he gave obviously a great answer there that we heard just about, with somebody like Lewis who played in the NFL 10-plus years, been around a lot of great defensive linemen, was one himself, what he sees out of those two in particular, and, that's exactly what you want to hear, as a Buffs fan, what he said about Dayon and Samuel there. I mean, and it's funny, too, because I tweeted about it yesterday. Dayon, you watch the interview, that man is always smiling. He always cheesing, man. And Samuel couldn't be more different. You know what I'm saying? He's very reserved, very serious demeanor. And I wrote it yesterday. That boy got serious game, though, to match his very serious demeanor. So,
yes, he does.
And obviously, it's kind of a microcosm of their different styles, too. We talked about it earlier where Samuel's kind of more speed, finesse at 6'4", Denver, 250 pounds. And then Dayon is, more power, more of a polished kind of true pass rusher using his power. But both of those guys, man, it wouldn't shock me if they combine to hit 10 sacks, those two, in addition to what, the other guys on the edge are going to give you. And even in the interior, I would expect a couple of guys. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Chidozie, Amari, McNeil, some of those other guys in the interior kind of get home for a few sacks as well. So I really like where the coaching of this room is with Damion Lewis and Warren Sapp, and obviously the talent is people are going to wake up. Like you said, they're sleeping on them now, but it's only going to take a couple games for people to realize that, oh, wow, Coach Prime might not have been capping when he was talking about this nasty. Dayon Hayes might not have been capping when he said this pass rush is going to be very scary. So
yes, sir.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Let's take a quick break. We'll finish up with Coach Lewis after this. Shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Coach Prime is he's putting out the challenge right now. Go sell out that NDSU game. There's some tickets available. So if you want to get in the door, head up our friends over at Game Time. You can sign up with the promo code Buffs. You get $20 off your first purchase. That's BUFFS over at Game Time. And it's not just games, too. I mean, football season's starting up. Go get your Broncos tickets. Go get your Buffs tickets from there.
Yeah.
But concerts, events, whatever you have going on in your city, Game Time has you covered. I guess if you're a baseball fan, you have a few more months to experience Coors Field and unfortunately experience the Rockies at the same time.
I'm going to have to do that, man. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, man. Obviously, I'm still relatively new to Denver and Colorado as a whole. I've yet to go to a Rockies game. I know I'm not missing much from the on-field product, but I still want to check out Coors Field.
You got to check out the park, man, for sure.
See what's going on there.
But everyone, hit up our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code BUFFS, BUFFS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BUFFS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Then shout out to Bet365. No joke. Literally my favorite book out there. I love their early money line payouts, especially for football. If you take a team on the money line and they get up by 21 points or more, the bet automatically cashes.
Sheesh.
No matter if the other team comes back and wins the game. You can sign up with the code DNVR365 and cash in with their bet and get offer. All you got to do is deposit $10, place a $5 bet on anything. I'd recommend doing whatever's going on tonight. I mean, any sport, ping pong, whatever's going on. Because no matter what happens, if that bet hits or misses, once it clears, you'll get $150 in bonus bets deposited directly into your account. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Speaking of that, it seems the line has really moved for this NDSU game, too. It opened at 6. We're up to like 9.5, the Buffs, 9.5 point favorites.
9.5 is what I saw this morning on BetMGM, I believe.
So,
it's moving.
Yeah, it's moving, and it's moving in our direction. So,
I think to me, it would always should have been a double-digit.
Of course it should have.
Kind of game, and I think it'll probably end up getting to 10 before they kick off, but... I think people are starting to come to their senses. Some of that might have to do with some injuries, obviously, on the NDSU side, but, The
book knows ball. All right, let's wrap up with Coach Lewis. His final quote from practice yesterday. And he was asked about, just what it's like coaching alongside his friend and his, I guess, assistant coach, Coach Sapp.
Yep.
It's been cool. Sapp is a Yellow Jacket guy. I've been knowing Sapp since I've been 15 years old because I grew up a Hurricanes fan. Went to Miami trying to emulate what he did while he was there. So it's been super positive. He's a great guy. He brings a lot of expertise to the room. I allow him to get the space to speak and teach, and he's getting into coaching, so it's been awesome.
I just love the chemistry those two have together. I mean, you could tell when we talked to Coach Sapp last week, he's got a lot of respect for Coach Lewis, and obviously, both of them being from Miami, and, he's talking about how Coach Lewis was coming up under him, basically trying to be the next baby Sapp and all that. So it's just, I think obviously the coaching is going to be better. I think the football knowledge is slightly better just with those two and the experience and all that. But it just seems like a fun room to be in, partially because those guys just love hanging out and doing what they do and just – they already know each other so well, and it's everyone coming together that same way.
Yeah, man, that camaraderie in that room is obvious, and that's something Dayon talked a little bit about yesterday too. Like, they got the same personalities between him and those two coaches, Coach Sapp and Coach Lewis, and they like to have fun, they like to joke around, but when it's time to lock in and get serious, that's exactly what they do. And I think it's just a really cool dynamic between Coach Sapp and Coach Lewis. You mentioned obviously, two Miami Hurricane greats, two, NFL, really good players. Sapp is a legend and Lewis is a really good player in his own right. But, you know, I think sometimes when a huge personality like Warren Sapp kind of can come into a room, he can kind of take things over, you know,
Right.
maybe in a negative way. But it seems like his relationship with Coach Lewis won't allow that to happen. It seems
Yes.
like they have a really good rapport with each other, you know, and I think he's only adding to, you know, what Coach Lewis is bringing and, you know, what this defensive, you know, room as a whole, from a coaching perspective is bringing to the table. So, you know, I like it a lot. Again, it's really cool just to hear Coach Lewis talk about that. You know, it's Hall of Fame coaches in that room. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of talent to match what they've been able to bring in the coaching staff.
It's exciting, man. Real quickly, just some quotes from the players from yesterday. Obviously, Coach Prime gave a shout out to Pat Narduzzi at his press conference a few weeks ago.
Right.
Dayon was asked about it yesterday, and he said, "Coach Prime's my dog. That's all I got to say." He also said, "Shout out to Coach P, Coach John Palermo, who is the edges coach or defensive ends coach over at Pitt."
Yeah.
He said he likes to hang out with Taufik and Chidoze a lot off the field. Taufik's a great guy. I don't know if you talked to him
I have not.
yet. Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what's up.
Dayon about playing with Sam and reuniting with him. He said that's one of the reasons why I came here, because I wanted to play with him.
Yeah.
As you said, we've talked about this. He's speed, I'm power. That's my dog. For playing for Coach Sapp and Coach Lewis, they teach us all about the little stuff. Do your job. Not every play is your play. I think that's a great point too. You know, as we were talking about Jordan and, you know, the reps on the offensive line, how it's, you know, play in, play out. You can't take one out. It's the same on the other side of the ball, obviously. And sometimes it's true. Like, I think that's where a lot of defenses, a lot of players get in trouble. You know, try to extend yourself, overextend yourself, and do too much when really it's 11 people on the field. If you do your job, you're going to put the defense in a good place.
Exactly. It's a cliche thing, but it's and it sounds like football talk, but it's so true. Just do your job. You're one of 11 out there. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to make every play. You're not going to make every tackle, every sack. But if you're doing your job every play, the plays are going to come to you, and other guys are going to be able to make plays when they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I think that's just something that, you know, again, you might not think it would be the messaging, you know, coming from guys like Warren Sapp and Damione Lewis, who had a bunch of individual success, but they're obviously preaching to that unit the importance of playing as a unit, as a team, as a defense, and I think we're going to see that play dividends.
Then Samuel Okunlola took the podium. He was quick. He said on playing with Dayon, great friend, great resource, great teammate to have. These two were actually teammates, or roommates, sorry, going back to Pitt. Dayon was talking about when Sam came on his visit, he was the guy showing Sam around and stuff. So it's just really cool to see it work out.
Cool friendship, man. And obviously Dayon mentioned too, you might get into it Dayon obviously being older, he said he's obviously taught Samuel some stuff, but Samuel has taught him things, you know, both on and off the field. So that's just a cool friendship dynamic, and I'm glad they're both here in Boulder.
And then last thing I have really is just Dayon talking about the depth of the defensive front. Said we got every style of rusher, so it's going to be very scary for offenses. They can't beat it. Everybody's got something different to bring. And, again, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this defensive line and the potential. As you mentioned, only 27 sacks last year. Colorado last year finished 110th in the country in rushing yards per game with 176.4. The turnovers came, but there was some bad tackling, especially as the year wore on. So there's some things to tune up, but it sounds like the talent is in that room to make the difference.
The talent is certainly in that room, and again, BJ Green being named to the watch list of the Chuck Bednarik Award, which is given annually to the top defensive player in college football, at least tells me that there's at least a few people out there who realize that BJ Green can really play and is one of the best pass rushers in the country. So that's good to see, but again, he's not the only one, man. Dayon is in for a big season. I think Samuel Okunlola is going to really come on and break out and start next season on, some draft boards.
Yes, sir.
In particular. So you add in Tajay, Arden, Chidozie, Rand, Buell, some of the other guys. TC, and Quinn Barnes, Quincy Wiggins. There's some real demons in that defensive line room.
I'm hyped, man. Can't wait. All right, starting to wrap up the show, guys. Get your questions in now, and we will get to them shortly. Also, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. And where can we find your stuff at, Scott?
Yeah, man. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scott Procter _. You spell my name Procter with an ER. A lot of people spell it with an OR, but that's just not right. ER is the way to go. So follow me on Twitter. Go follow my work on @thecoloradoan.com. got some great content coming up soon, obviously, with the season coming up. And in addition to the story I mentioned at the top with my conversation with North Dakota State offensive line coach Dan Larson, I think you guys out there are going to really want to read that for sure. So,
yeah, man, go give Scott a follow his stuff. You do great work, man, and it's honestly impressive as how quick you came on the beat and everything. So,
love my guy.
You're killing
that means
it,
a lot.
brother. All right, can we pull up that Senior Bowl watch list, Alyssa? Senior Bowl watch list came out today. Last year, I think we had like 3 guys on it, maybe.
Yeah.
It was like Jordan Dominic, Taj Alston, and probably Zay Weaver.
That sounds about right.
None of them got invites. Zay probably would have gotten an invite. He's going to make the Cardinals, by the way. He's in shape, too.
He's been balling, man.
He's
been balling. You love to see it.
Big game this weekend for Game 3 of preseason.
Yeah, for sure.
But look at this. This is the watch list for this year's Senior Bowl. And we've got 11 Colorado Buffaloes on this roster, or on this watch list. Kahlil Benson, BJ Green, Dayon Hayes, Preston Hodge, Jimmy Horn Jr., Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, Will Shepard, Mark Vassett, and LeJontay Wester. Oh my goodness, bro.
My
Crazy.
God. Yeah, that's talent all over on both sides of the ball. You know, you're looking at O-line, D-line, receivers, obviously. That's nasty, man. Who's, aside from Shador and Travis, obviously, who are you most excited for? Who you think's in for the biggest year on that list?
Oh, man. I think I still got to go. I mean, with the way he's been playing now, I think I'd probably say Will Shepard, but I got to throw LeJontay in there, too.
Yeah.
Because they're going to put up numbers, man.
They are, man. Because, I mean, I think it's a safe bet to say that Shador's going to throw for, say, minimum 3,500 yards.
Right.
You know, I think there's room for sure 1,000-yard receiver, and I think that can get up to 2. I mean, again, I've been banging the table for LeJontay Wester pretty much since Shador recruited him on Twitter back in December
That's said
and whatnot.
enough for me, bro, honestly.
That's really all I needed to hear.
Yes,
And then,
exactly.
once you turn on the film, it's like, okay, I see what he sees now. So I think, like I said, I've been banging the table for LeJontay. I think he's in for a huge season. I think he's going to lead the Buffaloes in receptions this fall. But you mentioned Will Shepard, man. That was my first kind of up close and look at him last Friday at the open practice, and boy.
Yep.
That boy can play, man. I mean,
sir,
and he
he
looks
can.
the part, too. Again, it was my first time seeing him in person. He's a true 6'3", 6'4", with the NFL-type body at receiver. You know what I'm saying? So the way he goes up in skies to catch contested balls, I think that's going to be something that's going to be put to use quite a bit this year, particularly in the red zone, particularly on third down. I think Will is a good bet to lead this team in receiving yards and or receiving touchdowns. Again, I really like LeJontay to lead the team in catches, but those 2 guys, man, I can't wait to see play.
I'd throw Preston Hodge in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to be someone who is drafted around top 50-ish.
Ooh.
He's just super clean in his technique, man.
Yeah.
Even on
Technically
Friday's
sound.
scrimmage. He's just in there always contesting throws and stuff. He is just one of the perfect, ideal, opposite of Travis type players because, I mean, he's going to shut you down and he's going to pick it off too.
And he's going to get a lot of work because, again,
yeah.
teams are not going to be wanting to throw to Travis Hunter. So
No doubt.
a lot of offenses are going to be like, wherever Travis Hunter is at, we're throwing to the other side. And that's going to leave a lot of work for Preston Hodge, obviously DJ McKinney as well, Colton Hood, the Auburn transfer. You know, one thing that's interesting that I just heard recently about Preston, apparently he went on an Oregon visit before he obviously committed to Colorado.
Oh, interesting.
And apparently they sent him away simply because of his height. They thought he was about 3 inches too short for their liking. And that was news to me. Again, I just heard this in the last 4 or 5 days or so. So, again, height, size isn't everything in football, particularly at that position. Sure, you love your corner to look like Sauce Gardner at, 6'2", 6'3 plus. But if you're as technically sound as Preston Hodge is, if you're as tough as he is, both in, press man coverage and, being a good tackler, you're going to have a chance to be a really good player and play at the next level. So I'm excited for Preston for sure.
And someone asked in the comments why Travis was on the list. The Senior Bowl will take guys who have early declared for the NFL draft.
Right.
I think the rule is you have to graduate. I'm not sure if they changed that or not, but they will take some guys who are juniors or redshirt sophomores, depending on their situation, if they want to go compete in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. I'm hyped. It's one of my favorite, parts of the, I guess, kind of off season.
Yeah.
But it's just the perfect meld between the NFL and college football, and that's just what I love.
Definitely.
A few more things to hit before we get to questions. Brian Howell reported this yesterday. Trevor Reilly has left the staff. I do not know what happened. I don't know who's going to really coach special teams yet at this point, but as we saw, I mean, Trevor was just kind of helping with the special teams. It's kind of a all hands on deck type thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to special teams, they do not have a special teams coordinator. It doesn't sound like they will hire a special teams coordinator because they hired George Hilo for that spot as like a analyst assistant type role. So it'll be a combination of folks coaching this special teams unit. Tommy Robinson's on staff. He's a very experienced coach. He's been at, I think, A&M for a long time as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see guys like that contribute on that side of the ball.
And that's pretty much what I've seen, at least in my playing experience, like, playing under, Coach Larson, who's obviously now at NDSU. That was kind of the approach there where, he would have one special team, say, kick return, or defensive coordinator would have, punt return, something like that. So you just divvy up among, the other coaches. On the topic of special teams, though, just real quickly.
Sure.
Mata, that boy look automatic. I mean, we probably know he is automatic, but he obviously looked like he really got in the weight room this offseason. And again, he looks like another dude who's motivated to prove that, he really liked that. He corrected me a little bit last week on a tweet. I couldn't really get the full,
that was great, though.
That was hilarious.
That was great.
I posted a video of him smacking like a 40-plus yard field goal, what I called at least. I couldn't really get. I was at a weird angle, couldn't really get the distance, but he corrected me. He wanted to let everybody know. No, that was a 50-yarder that I just hit. So
I love it.
Shout out to Mata. We love to see him. Mata don't miss, man. That's what they say.
That is what they say. And then probably the best thing that I saw yesterday. How about Coach Prime hooking Peggy up, the first fan NIL deal?
That's awesome.
With blenders. It's super cool. It's like a sunglasses case type of thing that's got Peggy on it, with her cheering with the palms and all that.
That's
so
dope.
It's just really cool. The way that Coach Prime has embraced Peggy and a lot of the CU traditions has been awesome to see.
Yeah.
And you can tell he genuinely cares about Peggy.
They seem like besties.
They really do.
They really damn their besties for real. You love to see. And I think, right, they're going to be selling some memorabilia and the proceeds will go to her. She going to make bank.
To her family, I think, too.
They going to make bank.
Yes.
People going to be buying that Peggy, related stuff for sure. So that's going to be, that's a really cool idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that was just awesome to see. So shout out to Coach for doing that. That was really cool. All right. Let's get to questions. Wrapping up today's show. We will be back tomorrow. RK will be back tomorrow. We will be live Friday as well. And then sounds like we're working Saturday. So you'll get a Saturday show. We're going up to Boulder as well. So we'll have sound from Boulder, takeaways from Neely as we get under 1 week until game time. I'm Heaven's Demon. Any news on Juju? Last I have is what we talked about on Monday. I talked to a few people in the program. Everything sounds great. There's just a lot of things behind the scenes going down. But patience, guys. Again, just patience.
Yeah, man. In this new age of, signing day and whatnot, until you got to sign on that down the line, there's always a chance. So I think, it's smart to just play the long game with Julian's recruitment, and you'll know when you know. That's for sure.
Yes. He hasn't said he's shut down his recruitment or anything. So.
It seems like he's specifically avoiding that very specific statement. Either I'm locked in or I'm shutting down my recruitment,
Demetrius, what's up, man? He says, welcome back, Scott. For you and that number one table setter, Jake, do the Buffs need to name starters? Go Buffs, kickoff ready. One, they're not going to, just because they're not obligated to.
Yeah, Coach Prime, I think, was quite literally asked that specifically last Friday, right? Mm-hmm. Are we going to be see a lineup, or how long is that going to be tinkered with? And he said pretty much up until kickoff.
The one Coach Prime is actually very honest. If you ask him directly, who is starting here, he will tell you a lot of times. Last year before TCU, we asked him who's starting in the nickel, and he told us all about Miles Slusher and how he's starting there. He gave out the full offensive line as they were at Big 12 Media Day.
Yeah,
so we'll get to talk to him this weekend and ask him. So hopefully we get some more answers for you guys there. Particularly, I guess, running back is one that we need that that people are very interested in. Linebacker, of course, as well.
Yeah, and probably just that solidified offensive line. But
Yep.
other than that, I think we all have a pretty good idea of who should be out there to start,
Yes.
next week.
Next up, we have BP. Is Kahlil healthy? So, I mean, again, I'm sorry. I wasn't actually able to go to practice yesterday, so I don't have updates or anything. Someone in the comments did say he was seen practicing with the first team. So, but I do know the injury wasn't a big deal. It's not like something that it's going to need surgery. It's like they're,
Right.
they have a 4 weeks that they're trying to turn into 2 weeks type of injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing like that. So Kahlil should be fine.
I
here
wouldn't
in
be
the
too
near
worried
future.
about it, at least at this moment in
Yes.
time.
MLM, what's up? Who are the freshmen that might redshirt versus those that simply too valuable to redshirt? Good question. Let me pull up the roster here and we could talk about it. I don't think we'll see Cam or Draylon. Obviously, Jordan's not going to redshirt either.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Michael Welch, I think he's gonna get some run
Yes,
this year for
me
sure.
too.
It might not happen right out the gate, week 1, week 2, early on in the year, but I think by season's end, his physical running style, as he gets more reps and gets acclimated to the college football game, I think Michael Welch is somebody, along with Jordan Seaton, who's gonna, maybe play a significant role on offense this year.
Yep. I don't know about Brandon Davis Swain. I think that one's a little up in the air. Obviously, a very, very talented player. Highly recruited coming out of Michigan last year.
I would expect a redshirt for him this year just because of what we talk about at the top, just
The
so
depth,
much
yes.
depth, in that defensive line room.
Chijoke Nwankwo, I'd expect him to redshirt. Yo-Yo Atia, I'd probably expect him to redshirt.
One freshman who I'm interested to see, we haven't heard a ton about, but just a hell of a high school football player, and I'm interested to see how he kind of gets acclimated to the college football game, and that's Ben Boozy in the secondary.
He's
a
looked nice,
freshman
too.
from Florida. I talked to him a few months ago, soon after he committed, and I just really like his demeanor. His coach really had nothing but, glowing things to say about him, obviously as a football player, but also as a person. And he's just really talented, an athletic freak. So I'm interested to see. Obviously, we saw some, freshmen get a handful of freshmen, play last year. And Coach Prime made that a point at Big 12 Media Days. I believe, they signed 17, 13 played last year as true freshmen. So Ben Boozy is another freshman that I would keep an eye out in that secondary. Say if, injuries or something, knock on wood, were to happen, I can see Ben carving out a little role.
He's looked nice at times. I expect Brandon Hood to get some playing time. Micah, of course.
Brandon looked really good at the last Friday's open practice.
did, yeah.
Granted, it was against second and third team defense, but he looked really powerful, explosive, and yeah.
A slight aside, I was asking someone over the weekend about Yo-Yo Atia. They really think they have something with him.
That's scary, man.
Yeah.
That's the wild card because, again, the physical tools are present.
Yes. Yeah.
But if he can put it together up here, and I think you had mentioned one of the first times on the show that you thought that was like Loadholt kind of calling his
Yeah.
shot. Like,
Yeah.
I see something in this young man, and I think I can pull it out of him. That'd be interesting. That'd be because again, that's something that nobody is expecting.
Right.
Yo-Yo to really turn into a real contributor. But if that happens, man, watch out.
Who's next? 5280 Ivan. What is more likely for next Thursday's game? 2 100-yard receivers, 1 100-yard rusher, or a 2-sack pass rusher? Great question.
That is a good question.
Where would you go?
I would go 2-sack pass rusher.
I think I would do the same.
I think one of those dudes are going to get home more than once. So again, BJ Green coming out game 1, Dayon Hayes coming out game 1, wanting to make a statement. I can very much see that, and especially again, we're assuming the Buffs are going to be up, on the scoreboard. And again, if you get in a situation, if you're NDSU late in the game where you're dropping back, throwing pretty much every down,
Yep.
you're gonna leave yourself open to some sacks, which I see, BJ Green and Dayon Hayes licking their chops at a situation like that. But 100-yard rusher, I guess wouldn't surprise me either. But I would go with the 2-sack pass rusher. Sounds like you agree.
Yeah. How likely would you say it is we get all three?
Wow. I mean,
Like, if you put odds on it, it would be like, what, plus 500?
yeah,
Plus 600?
I would say like plus like 450, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That'd be insane. That'd mean the Buffs win by a lot.
By a
A lot.
That would mean Ryan Staub gets some really
Yes,
good
sir.
reps at quarterback
Yep.
for sure.
What's up, Eric? Prior to NDSU, how much are the ones going to get reps? My guess, not much, because can't risk injury to likes of Shador or Travis. Neither guys are hit anyway. I think there's still a lot of competition going on, though, man. I think it's the ones are going to definitely get their reps, and there's a lot of install fine-tuning going on right now, too, for specifically NDSU. I wouldn't expect that to change at all.
Agreed.
Nicholas, is it another scrimmage? I don't think so. It's actually weird because obviously we play on Thursday next week, so I think the week is just being shifted and moved a little bit. Right. So Saturday we go up and we talk to Coach, and that's the last time we'll, I think, have any media. Or we have media Monday?
Yeah, Monday. We're here from the coordinators on Monday.
So then Monday will be the last day of media up until NDSU. We haven't heard anything about a scrimmage, though. I'm not expecting anything like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
What's up, Cam? He asked, any chance that Finneseth gets some playing time? Prime seems to rely on him as one of the leaders. I think he's definite, like at least a special teams contributor this year.
No doubt.
I don't know if he breaks into the safety lineup, but he's been getting ready, and he's going in his third year, I think, now. So if injuries go down, I think he'd be one to be called up.
I completely agree. Again, special teams role for sure. It'd be pretty difficult to crack that safety rotation, and somebody we haven't talked about either at that spot, Dayon Reilly.
Yes,
really impressed me seeing him in person for the first time last Friday too. Made a acrobatic diving interception in 7-on-7 off Shador off a tip pass, and he looks real comfortable out there. Another one of those obnoxious communicators. You heard him talking a lot, getting on the same page as those guys in the secondary. So I like that about his game as well.
Two Favorite Uncle says, do you all think we will see different starters each week? Maybe. I could see the linebacker competition bleeding over into the season.
Exactly.
I could maybe see the running back competition doing the same as well.
Correct.
I think that's kind of it, though. I think that ideally you find your starting five before, and unless, I don't know, shit hits the fan and someone's just bad and you got to get them out, you shuffle along there. But I think that it was really just injuries that changed things in the lineup last year, even too.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think it'll be. I think we'll see different starters at different spots depending on the year. Again, your week 1 lineup shouldn't be your week 10, 11
exactly,
lineup, so to speak. So I think again the running back spot will be interesting. I think how the depth of the receivers and how those guys kind of mesh with Shador as the season goes along, and because they obviously have different skill sets, play different roles, that's going to be fascinating. And the linebacker spot, and even up front, particularly on the interior, I think Shadozi is a locked in starter in the interior defensive line, but next to him, I think there's a few guys that you think could find a role there.
And just going back to the redshirt question too, who's to say one of these freshmen doesn't just take development hits the fast track, in a few weeks, and all of a sudden come November, it's well, we can't keep Brandon Davis swinging off the field type of thing,
It'd be a good problem to have.
Definitely. Hook, is DNVR coming to Orlando for the UCF game? We will be there. We will see you out there. We will likely have some kind of gathering / tailgate as well. So more news to come on that front. A lot more news to come on our plans for away games this season.
Can't wait for that game.
You're going to be there?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
You'll get to meet Scott Procter as well, so come through.
Slide. Pull up on me.
To Super Chats we go. My guy East Coast Kev is back. Shout out to Miss Peggy for getting her very own NIL deal. F getting a bowl game. #playoff Peggy with the salute eyeball emoji. That's the plan, brother. That is the plan. Go away. East Coast Kev. Again, by week 6, Colorado is at least 5-1. You'll see 4- and 5-star recruits decommitting from other schools considering Colorado. Stay tuned 100%, especially if they get Julian. Many more people to follow. I mean, there was some Rivals news. I don't have a Rivals subscription, honestly. I didn't read it. But Shamar Arnaud apparently being courted by Colorado right now. He's a USC commit, also from Carrollton. So
very interesting.
We'll see. There's a handful of guys, though. If you pay attention to Coach Box and Coach Corey Phillips' Instagram.
Follow the tea leaves.
Yep. Look at the guys that they keep on pumping up, and you'll learn something. All right. Awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much for coming down again.
Absolutely, man.
killed
Appreciate
it.
you as always, man. I was starting to think y'all forgot about me a little bit, maybe.
Hell
No,
no. Honestly, dog, if we want to be honest here right now, I was kind of counting down the days so you came back from vacation.
Hey, that's what we love to hear, man. We love to hear it, man. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to RK. Shout out to everybody out there who leaves dope comments, man. One of my favorite things about coming here is just reading the comments here on the show all the time. I love it. Y'all be having me cracking up here. I'll be having to contain my laughter. So.
Buff Nation's the best, man.
Seriously.
Shout out to y'all for watching. Hit that thumbs up on the way out. Let's do it again before Thursday.
Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. So we'll have Scott back. I saw someone ask about Neely too. We definitely still do shows with Neely. We did one last Friday.
I was gonna say I feel like I saw him on here recently.
Yeah, so we'll have Neely back soon too. We'll probably hear from him on Saturday when we go up to Boulder again as well. But until then, it's exciting time, guys. 8 days. Tomorrow, a week out.
Ooh-wee. We gonna wake up real soon and it's gonna be here.
Cannot wait. We'll see you then, School Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.